turn this music off.
All right. Hello.
Almost.
Hello.
1 second.
Mic.
I think Greg is going to say something.
I am. I have
He's going to
words.
read our bios.
So welcome everyone to Healing, Pleasure, and Play, a queer take on psychedelics with author Joe Dolce and actor-director Marco Calvani. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. The Bureau is an all-volunteer independent queer bookstore that my partner Donnie Joachim and I founded in 2012, and that has been here at the LGBT Center since 2014. And we're being helped today by Lily and Evan, our volunteers. And as an all-volunteer independent queer bookstore, we rely on both donations and sales to keep this machinery going. So I'm going to pass a bag around with some change in it. There's also a Venmo QR code. We especially encourage you to make a donation if you know you won't be buying the book. But you're welcome to do both.
Buy
the book.
I'll pass that around. And Joe will be signing right here afterwards. Anyone online, if you'd like to make a donation on Venmo, you can do that at BGSQD. And the Bureau has regular business hours Wednesdays through Sundays from 1 to 7 p.m. And then we often stay open later when we have events. And we have a lot coming up as usual. So you can check out our upcoming events on our website, bgsqd.com. You can also sign up for the newsletter in the back of the room or on the website, and you'll get an email every other Monday about our upcoming events. So before I introduce Joe and Marco, I wanted to read a land acknowledgement. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community House, founded in 1969 and located here in Manhattan. Donating to the AICH is one way for settlers and non-native people to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at aich.org. The Bureau also recognizes Palestinian liberation as a fundamental part of our collective liberation. Thank you very much. I love it when we don't get hisses or boos. It only happened once. We strongly encourage you to take one of our free zines about why we feel it is particularly important for queer people to speak out in solidarity with Palestinians. And with that, let me introduce our guests. Joe Dolce is the author of Modern Psychedelics, the Handbook of Mindful Exploration, and Brave New Weed, Adventures in the Uncharted World of Cannabis. He is also the founder and CEO of Medical Cannabis Mentor, an online education platform serving healthcare providers, dispensary personnel, and community colleges around the US. When not exploring the intersection of substances and consciousness, Joe runs Joe Dolce Communications, one of New York's most esteemed presentation and media training companies. He is the former editor-in-chief of Details magazine, and he lives in Brooklyn, New York.
I was exhausted.
You made it. Marco Calvani is an award-winning writer, director, producer, and actor. Over the course of his 20-year career, he has received commissions from the Phoenix Theatre of London, Kunsthaus Tacheles of Berlin, and La Mama Theatre of New York, among others. His first feature film, High Tide, premiered at SXSW to critical acclaim and features Brazilian star Marco Pigossi, Oscar winner Marissa Tomei, and Tony winner Bill Irwin. As an actor, he co-stars in Tina Fey's The Four Seasons on Netflix, playing opposite Oscar nominees Steve Carell and Coleman Domingo. The show returns for a second season in 2026. Please give them both a very warm welcome.
A footnote right away to Joe's bio.
What?
Well, it's your birthday
My
today.
birthday today.
He was born on this day. Happy birthday, Joe.
Thank you, Marco.
Fellow Scorpio,
Am I on?
you are on.
All right.
Thank you for coming after,
you.
I came from the set today, they just finished shooting, so that's a lovely birthday present.
I was about to say it's my birthday present for you.
Oh,
Thank you all for
what
coming.
else are you giving me?
Thank you very much for coming today, 5 p.m. Saturday night. We're very pleased to be talking for you about this baby of his. If you haven't seen it, this is the book that Joe just released this summer when it came out.
August.
In August. Modern Psychedelics. For all of you who are maybe wondering, I don't know much about psychedelics. I'm really, I'm just very much intrigued by the topic. I'm curious by nature, which makes me a seeker in many areas of life. Most of all, I know this guy for I've been for a long time now. 12 years,
12
maybe.
years?
12 years. We've been friends. We've had a few journeys also together.
He knows a little bit about
I know
psychedelics.
a little bit.
Who here considers themselves well traveled in the world of psychedelics? Let's get a sense.
I think James, yes. I know.
Who's an infrequent flyer? And who's pretty much inexperienced? Okay, so that's, okay, we got a sense. So it's a mix.
It's and I feel mixed too about it. I think we were talking the other day. I feel I've done it all wrong, all the time, especially as a gay man. You know, I've been.
How come? How so?
Well, you know, every time there's something that altering your sense of reality or sense of self, it's a drug. And as a gay man in the queer community, at least my experience since I was 20 years old. You know, it's been like, okay, let's take a drug to go to the dance floor and get fucked up and get sexual and get sexy. And usually it's been MDMA, it's like been ecstasy, which is featured in his book. And then, you know, so I never questioned the dose. I never questioned the content of it. Nobody has ever guided me through what happens afterwards. But when I started reading your book, I was like, oh, wow, I have a lot to learn. And that is why I think your book is really useful, helpful, encouraging, inviting, but also in the book, you're telling us everything that we should be also careful about. It's not just an open invitation, we should all do psychedelics. It's a mindful handbook. And although I feel at a time like this, so much happening out there, at least personally, there's so much happening also inside of me. There's so many resistances, so many struggles. So the need to check out or to check in with myself, that is probably getting me back to my first, my opening sentence, like I did it all wrong. I've always used these substances to check out and never to use it as a key into a possible way of being in the world, into who is my true authentic self, for example. And this is something that I've learned, in conversations with you, and then you find plenty of opportunity to discover the meaning of it in the book. I think you wrote it wonderful.
Thank you.
Especially at a time like this where, there's a resurgence of psychedelics. Everybody in Hollywood is doing K treatment for trauma retrievals. and it feels like everybody has access to everything.
It feels that way to me also. I don't know how it started, but I would say maybe 15 years ago, we really wouldn't be having a conversation like this in public. We'd be whispering about it, we'd be much more quiet about it. It wouldn't be a conversation. I've had 20 of these talks in the last couple of months, right? So that is a new thing. And I'm not sure why, in this particularly authoritarian, horrible time we're living through, access to psychedelics is so open. I'm really not sure. But I just came back from the Pacific Northwest and everybody's growing mushrooms. like under their bed, in their closet. No, you can't go, I mean, somebody interviewed me, he gave me 8 grams of mushrooms, just to say hello.
What?
And I thought, okay, it's very nice.
Somebody asked me if I was taking mushroom to come here today. On set.
Did you take any?
No. Not yet. No, I don't have it.
I have some, don't worry.
Okay. So,
But thanks for that introduction. I mean, I just want to say, like, I think there's lots of ways to use psychedelics, and having fun is definitely one of them, right? And losing yourself is completely a good thing to do, right? But do it be smart about it, right? Because I mean, I've had bad journeys. Everybody's had bad journeys, and they're really uncomfortable, and you can get yourself into sticky situations. So I think there's ways to use them that, yes, are good for internal exploration and all that jazz, and to really heal in many profound ways. I've been really amazed by what I've seen and what I've learned in terms of healing with psychedelics, but also they're good fun, and we need to have some fun. We really need some fun.
So since you're talking about how, 10, 15 years ago would have been weird to talk about it in public about this,
Scary.
How did you find money to publish?
How did I get paid to do this? I know.
Did you get paid?
I got paid.
Okay.
But not very much, very little. I got paid very little. Well, I did think that, okay, so I wrote another book called Brave New Weed.
Yes.
And people started asking me questions about psychedelics. Like one friend has had a heart condition, should she do ayahuasca? And another friend wanted to microdose, and he kept feeling it, and is he taking too much? And I didn't really know. So I thought, all right, let me look around a little bit, right? And I started looking on the internet, and there's a flood of information out there, and you don't know who's writing it, who to trust. I mean, you can go on Reddit, and there's lots of people talking, and I don't know who they are. So I sort of thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity for sort of a single source of truth if we can look at science and spirit and indigenous stuff. Maybe we can put this all together in one little package. And the other point is, I mean, it's my birthday, and I'm old, and thank you, but I really didn't want to I don't want to turn into like a stuck old guy. I don't want to be ossified like my father, my grandfather, lots of old people I know, some friends of mine. And I really thought that psychedelics are ways to keep opening, like if you want to. It's not the only way, there's lots of different ways, I think. But I've always liked psychedelics, and I've known about them. I've used them since I was in my 20s. I went to school in Chicago, and Chicago was a big hub of MDMA distribution. That's one of the amazing stories I learned when I was researching this book.
That you'll find also in the book. You tell me.
So MDMA was resynthesized. It was first discovered in 1912, and it was supposed to be a blood stimulator, and it didn't work. So they put it on the shelf. And a chemist in the Bay Area called Alexander Shulgin ran into somebody on the ferry from not Oakland, whatever it is, whatever on the other side, Sonoma, back to Oakland, and said, you should resynthesize this drug, MDMA. It's really cool. And this is a man who he's an award-winning chemist. He got patents for Dow Chemical in the 1960s that made them tons of money, but he also had a mescaline journey in 1962 that changed his life. And he just decided he was going to explore non-traditional psychedelics and synthesize them. So he went back and he resynthesized MDMA in the 1970s, and he loved it instantly. And he had this deal with 10 friends. They would come to his house every Friday night, or once Friday night a month, and they would try these new novel compounds that he had invented. And the only thing they had to do was write about how they felt, what was good, what was bad, how long it took, blah, blah, blah. So amongst that group of friends were a bunch of therapists, and they came across this substance and they started using it in couples therapy. And it quickly became known that one MDMA session was the equivalent of a year in couples therapy, right? It was like, it really enabled you to say difficult things and also absorb difficult things from your partner, from your friends, from your loved ones, with a lot of equanimity, without a lot of defensiveness. So they started using it, and they actually were so nervous about it leaking out into the mainstream they called it Atom. They mixed the letters up, MDMA, ADAM, right? Well, lo and behold, in about 2 years, it came into Clubland, and it really came into Clubland. And a tennis instructor in Dallas, Texas, did you read this? It's so fucking psychedelic, like this, you can't even believe it. He decided he was gonna start a venture capital fund to mass produce MDMA. And he raised $1 million and started a factory producing it. And they identified Chicago, Los Angeles, I think, or San Francisco and New York as the hubs. They even had an 800 number. You could call and order thousands of pills of MDMA. And that's how it really hit big. And that's also how it moved very quickly from the United States to Ibiza and then to London. It really launched the rave scene. It launched the EDM music scene, which is now worth, I lost track, $20 billion a year or something, and Berlin. And then it was unstoppable. And then, I'll finish this with a coda. When they made it illegal, when the government made it illegal in 1987, and there were a lot of people fighting for it to remain legal because they knew it was a helpful and healing substance. Alexander Shulgin, the man who resynthesized it, got so mad that he published a book called Pikal. Pikal is a 900-page tome. It documents all of the experiences he and this group of people had with illegal substances, and at the end he published 50 recipes of every illegal compound that he had created. So he basically launched the underground psychedelic scene, and he maintained it. He became like this magnet. Every time he would come up with a new formula for something, people would start synthesizing it. So he got his just rewards. Hello, have a seat.
Hi,
Hi, honey.
Honey.
Oh, honey's here. Hi, honey, you're late. Come on in.
And
So did that answer, was that a question you asked?
yeah, sort of. It was a beautiful answer anyway. Very rich. You gave us some context, actually. Have you tried them all?
I haven't tried.
Can I read them?
Yeah.
Some of them probably. I
Well,
don't
listen,
even
I'll
know.
tell you what I've tried.
Yes.
And you all can tell me what you've tried too, so I know.
I'll find them. MDMA, of course. LSD. Magic mushrooms. Peyote, mescaline, wachuma.
Peyote, that's so intense.
Ketamine.
You're not so sure.
High dose and low.
Okay, exactly. And then ayahuasca. I know you did. Ibogaine.
Never.
No?
Not Abigail, no.
Ibogaine, sorry.
What is that?
I'll tell you. What else, was there another
There
one?
is
that the
another one.
last
It's not in the. No. There's also DMT 5.
I've
Wow.
tried 5 MEO DMT. Anybody else tried the frog? And anybody else tried DMT? I've never tried DMT.
There's another one that I read in the book. I'm gonna find it.
Canna.
No,
Canna.
it's two. There's a number. Wow, what did I put?
There's a lot of
2B.
Oh, 2CB.
2CB. I was
That's
like,
a-
wait.
2CB is really interesting.
Yes.
That's an Alexander Shulgin
Okay, can you
creation
please?
also.
I don't want it to get too detailed too soon, but what is it?
It's a compound that is sort of like MDMA. Correct me if you had a different experience with it. It's more psychedelic than MDMA, but it's also very emotional, and it hits quickly, and it's over in about 4 hours. And it was Alexander Shulgin's favorite of all of them. You have a different description. What do you want to say about 2CB?
I don't disagree with you, actually, except that it maybe lasts a little longer.
It may last a little longer, yeah, depending on how much you take.
You know, it has this like really empathetic, heady
It does.
quality.
It has a mescaline quality too, though,
Yeah.
because it is somewhat derived from mescaline, so it's got a visual stimulation quality. It's very electric. I really like it a lot. And interestingly, you can have sex on 2CB more easily than you can on MDMA. If you don't know, if you've never taken MDMA, 40% of men who use it cannot get erect. And by the way, it is safe to use Viagra or any other erection stimulator with MDMA. I did research into that.
I'm glad you say that, because these are exactly the things that you find in the book that makes it, no, it's true, that makes it very real, that makes it very easy, that makes it not presumptuous, and really, really, really helpful.
I thought it was helpful, especially if you want to have sex on it. But I also think, I gotta say, my experience with MDMA is that sex, in a way, is a little beside the point. Like, there's so much else going on, you might as well just honor and take advantage of the things that are happening and, deal with sex after you come down and go through the blue of it. Ibogaine, is a really extraordinary substance. It comes from a plant in West Africa, in the country of Gabon and Cameroon, okay? It only grows in that specific environment. And it was used tribally and indigenously for hundreds of years. It was actually interesting, and in France, which was the colonizer of Gabon, they took the synthesis of iboga, or the root, and put it into a tonic called Lamberdine that they sold in drugstores from 1932 to 1967 until the war on drugs happened, right? It was a stimulating tonic. But what's amazing about ibogaine is that it's called the addiction interrupter. It's a very long journey. It's a 12 to 24-hour journey. It's apparently you see like a film or a video of your entire life. But people who are addicts can stop addiction and not have relapse, sometimes after one dose, which is quite extraordinary. And I just interviewed this football player. The guy is 6'8", he weighs 300 pounds. And he played pro ball for 9 years, and he had traumatic brain injury. And I've understood what traumatic brain injury is, but he talked about it in a really intense, incredible way. I mean, he would erupt in fits of anger, just at his kids who were playing. He was suicidal a lot. He used to dream about, driving in front of a semi on the highway, making it look like an accident so he could die. No, it's a torturous illness. And the medical profession, they can show you a brain scan of your brain with the holes in it, but they can't offer anything else other than cold plunges. So that's the medical advice. I mean, that's all we have. So he went to a clinic in Mexico called Beyond, and did 3 ibogaine treatments, and is now living a healthy life. His brain will always have that damage, but some of the emotional distortion that he was feeling has been, it's under control. And he started a nonprofit to help other athletes now, because the NFL and the NHL, they'll pay you well, but it'll kill you, and they will not help in any way. So he's trying to, I think, gently persuade them to start funding research and stuff into ibogaine. But ibogaine is an extremely powerful substance.
I have a couple of friends actually who will be going soon, I think, to Mexico.
Yeah.
They suffered severely of PTSD.
Yeah.
And they're going to the clinic together.
Yeah, there's a couple of them in Mexico, and in Portugal there's a few, and in the state of Sao Paulo. Only in one state in Brazil. That's where some of the research happens.
3 nice trips, I have to say.
It's a difficult journey though. The recuperation period afterward. Well, they want you to stay for 10 days at least, because they really want to give you therapy, and they want to help you get and integrate and get back and really talk about the experience. Apparently I know other people who've done it and have loved it. A psychedelic researcher I know, she thinks it's amazing. So I've been invited to go do it in Mexico, but I haven't had the urgency quite yet.
You inspired already so many questions, but I want to.
So good to see you.
So good to see you. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
So last year, the FDA declined to approve MDMA as an official, as a legal treatment against PTSD.
And depression, I think.
Depression, okay. So I guess one of the main confusion about the topic could be that since it's illegal, one substance means that it's a drug. But psychedelics are not drugs.
I don't call them drugs. I mean, I think they're a category unto themselves. Some people disagree with me. They say all drugs are drugs, they're all molecules. Okay, fine. But I think because they are not addictive in general, if you use ketamine in low doses, it could be, as we know. But in general, they're not addictive. They rearrange neurocircuitry in the brain. They are unlike any substance. They're not like a pharmaceutical. So a pharmaceutical has a direct target. Every time you use it, the same thing happens. Psychedelics are really unpredictable, and the setting and the way you prepare for the journey and what you do after the journey and the setting. I mean, these are things I've heard these words my whole life, and I never paid any attention to them until recently. Really, really, really can affect the trajectory of the trip and what you take from it and the meaning you make from it. And that's a different way of using psychedelics than the way I grew up with anyway, which was, take them, go have fun, and get up and go to work the next day. And I think there's a better way to use them. So I don't like to call them drugs. I think there are drugs, and then I think there are psychedelics.
So, especially in the gay communities, there's a lot of abuse of drugs or psychedelics. There's a lot of people because of that recovering from addictions, because, addiction to substances. So I think it's very important to highlight the fact that psychedelics, if taken the right way, with the right also purpose, they're not addictive.
Anybody who's taken acid does not really want another acid trip the next
Not
day.
right away.
I mean, it's just not the way it works. I mean, they're just not that. They're satisfying and they're self-limiting to a large extent. Again, I think low-dose ketamine is different, but if you take a high dose of ketamine, I guess you could come back the next day. Anybody ever do sequential high-dose ketamine journeys? Did you enjoy it?
No.
No. I've loved my high-dose ketamine journeys, but I found it quite, like I didn't need another one for a long time, So.
Have you ever met in your research or in your talks people who are recovering from addiction or sober, that they live a sober life, who, I know there are a few friends here who do that, which we were just talking before, but who safely are adventuring to the world of psychedelics?
Yeah.
Like, is it safe?
I think it's
Do they
safe.
think it's safe?
Those I know say it's safe. I don't really know those who've had trouble with it. So I don't have much of that experience. But psychedelics, that's the other thing that bonds them as a category. They are cross-diagnostic. So most of the psychedelics treat depression, PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, addiction. And another one I'm missing, I'm forgetting. That's really unusual, and it coheres this category, and I explore some of the research that explains that. But that's really interesting, like no other drugs in a category treat this random, and within addiction, I should say, eating disorders, because a lot of medicine now is looking at eating disorder as an addiction. And it's actually the most dangerous addiction. It kills the most people than any other addiction. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's really a deadly illness and a terrible one. Smoking, cigarettes, and alcoholism. Yeah. And it was actually known in the 1950s with LSD. That's actually one of the ways that LSD is one of the most researched compounds in the world. There's over 1,000 papers written on it. And Bill W., the man who founded Alcoholics Anonymous, used LSD and wanted to bring it into AA. But the board sort of said, we don't want to treat one substance with another. So he left the board, actually. He left AA and continued experimenting with LSD on his own. And it's very powerful anti-addiction medicine. Again, it has to be done in the right treatment circumstances. You can't just trip and think you're gonna deal with your addiction, because addiction, the way they're starting to think about it now is that it's a very complex, both physiological and habitual thing of the mind, that it's really tied in with memory and some sort of trauma, and that's why the therapy is so important to use after you use the psychedelic.
I actually would love to stress something that I discovered recently. I mean, considering I wasn't born yesterday, not yesterday, but I discovered in the last few years how what it's called integration, after the experience, how important it is.
It is important, and it's also a vague thing. Like, not. I mean, I've been trying to quickly.
What do you
like,
mean? Because it's not medical?
It's not like defined. Like, what is it? So it could be talk, it could
Sharing.
be therapy, it could be sharing, it could be walking in the woods, it can be dancing, it can be writing. Some people have different ways of trying to. It's
But
about
taking that time.
It's about making meaning, right? So how do we make meaning of what happens under? How come you're smiling so much?
What did you take?
It's nice to see, by the way. It's not a criticism. It's very nice to see. But yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I never even thought about it when I was younger. And I even have come to think, like that blue period you get after taking MDMA, that blue Monday, if you can sort of nurture it and just go with it.
You don't get to Black Tuesday.
You get.
You skip Black Tuesday.
Is it Black Tuesday or Blue Monday?
No, I knew about Blue Monday and Black Tuesday.
Okay. That I think there's actually, you can nurture the vulnerability that happens in it and maybe get something from it. Not everybody enjoys that. I'm not going to say it's that enjoyable, that lowering of serotonin, but I think there's value in it.
Well, this brings me actually to one of my favorite chapters in the book, and one of the topics of today's conversation with you, which is pleasure. Like there's a chapter dedicated to specifically about MDMA, but you explore a little bit all the other substances, psychedelics, and how the MDMA, how it can be used in couples for as a bridge, as a vehicle. Not just towards intimacy, but like to create it and to nurture it, and also as a couple therapy, as you said, like one section of the MDMA is how long? A year
is what they
worth
say.
of
That's the myth. Yeah.
So every psychedelics. First of all, what is pleasure? Like we talk. I know. Like no. Let's talk. Like every psychedelics that you explore in this book, that are quoted, that they are analyzed in this book, are good vehicles for pleasure.
I wouldn't say so. No.
LSD, I don't know.
LSD, I like LSD, not everybody does. I found peyote very difficult.
But if pleasure is intimacy, for example.
I didn't find that, no, I don't think all psychedelics yield that. I think anything like MDMA or 2CB, they're more prone to it because they're upping the serotonin volume in your brain, really, and that's a very pleasurable thing. And sometimes they add some dopamine too. But not all the psychedelics are like that. So ketamine does not work on those receptors. Ibogaine works on a completely different set of receptors, which is why it's not said to be so pleasurable. I expected my experience with peyote happened in Mexico. It happened outdoors. It was run by Wicaria shamans. It was completely authentic, and it just was not that comfortable. It was one of the longest nights of my life, so I can't say I had any pleasure from it. But I think most people are talking about, when they're talking about couple stuff, they're talking about MDMA, 2CB, maybe low dose ketamine, and that's interesting because I have found with low dose ketamine that you actually lose the boundary between cells. The body sort of merges. And that's a very interesting experience to have if you're prepared for it. Not everybody enjoys that. Some people say that is the most unsexual thing in the world, but I find it quite pleasurable.
Wow.
And I also think that, like we always think of sex as the only, as the ultimate, but I also think intimacy, being able to talk to each other in ways that are more open, like I said, like where you're able to say, every relationship I've ever been in has this, you hold things and there are things that are just not said. And at a certain point, you need to
You
say
drop the mask, you dropped it.
It has to come out, or it comes out in some way, and maybe it's not that great. But the other side of that is that it allows difficult things to be heard. And that I think is really interesting, that you can hear things that you might normally get defensive about or feel bad about, but that you can actually allow it and have empathy for the person who's saying it to you, right?
Well-
So that sharing of empathy is really major, I think.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if the substance will help you in get rid of the mask, in like getting more in contact, in a deeper contact with your true self, that obviously will create a better opportunity in communicating with the other one, in touching
I
also
think
the
so,
other
and
person.
well, it's a very touchy
Yeah,
thing,
oh, yeah,
as
it
we
is.
know. But it's I think it's that ability to hear and listen, and you even have empathy. I've had this experience anyway. You even have empathy for the person who's saying something difficult. You know, it's such an empathy riser, so that even you really feel for like the person who's struggling to say something difficult to you. And that's sort of a gorgeous thing. And I think as adults, we really, we have so many barriers and so many walls we put up just to get through the day and in our relationships. And I don't know if we, in Western culture anyway, spend enough time just trying, being intimate with each other.
Well, no, and also
It's hard.
It's very hard. It's not, the society, the communities, the families we were raised in. They didn't promote this kind of values.
I'm thinking of my family. It's hilarious.
I think of mine.
My family only talked about food. That was it. I mean, all
Food and
conversation,
Jesus.
all conversation was about the broccoli, and all anger and fury and emotion all happened at the table.
No, and this is
true.
This is an exploration of of the substances that they're truly anti-capitalistic in a way.
They are.
They want you to lose
are.
the boundary of yourself and get unified with someone else, with nature, if you are in the right setting. And sometimes also if you're on a dance floor, right?
Yes.
I mean, that can be a ritual.
That's
the
a
dance
great
floor.
thing, I think. Yeah.
I don't want to I didn't do it all wrong, right?
No, you didn't.
Okay,
don't worry.
great. No, I mean, I've done also in nature. I've done actually something that I want to bring it up. Like I remember one journey that we had with you with mushrooms, and probably it was the first time that I tried mushroom. And
At the beach.
was it- at the house at the beach, yes. And was it one we were still discovering?
No, I knew about mushrooms.
Okay, I am still freaking out about mushrooms. I don't think I've ever fully recovered. I'm still a little scared because if you remember well,
I do remember.
I don't know if it was a dose problem or my psyche, but the first part for me lasted 2 days, but it was probably half hour.
Half hour.
Exactly. 2 days.
He was really unhappy for 2 days.
And then suddenly,
Boom.
boom. I don't know if the gardener really came, if it was an hallucination, but I remember laughing.
So
like,
I'll tell you this.
hard.
So what happened is Marco did have a difficult time for about 30 minutes. He was really uncomfortable. And then I said, let's just take a shower. We had an outdoor, we were in our bathing suits, it was hot. We took a shower outdoors and we were sitting under the shower, sort of just sitting there.
yeah, and I remember all of this, by the way. I wasn't completely out.
And then the
Just
gardener
very-
shows up to mow the lawn, and we we just started laughing hysterically, and we didn't know what to say because we didn't really want him to stay because there we were tripping our eyes out. So I think I just said to him in Spanish, "We're tripping. Come back tomorrow." And he was totally cool. He got it. He's Mexican. He understands. I mean,
And those three phases, like the 2
Yeah.
days / half hour dark hole, when I really like faced my demons of the day or of my life,
perhaps, yeah.
and then an uncontainable laughter
Yes.
for again 2 days, but probably another just hour, and then I couldn't stop talking
That's
Like,
true. That is
for
true.
a few hours.
It was really.
So was that okay? Like, was that? Is there? I guess my other question.
Is that the way it
linked to
always
this
is?
was,
No.
Is it always like this?
No, of course not.
Okay, so it's according.
I probably didn't set you up well enough, come to think of it. That was well before I wrote this thing and knew a lot less about different parts of the journey, how to structure a journey.
Yeah, but also what I've learned from your book is that dark hole. I'm sorry for calling it that way, but just so you understand, I was really like, wow, dark, and I felt heavy. I felt
I remember.
deeply wrong, and leaving at the wrong time, in the wrong place, and so really dark. I've learned that that is also part of the journey.
Can be. I mean, I've had difficult journeys like that also, and yeah, the last mushroom journey I had was rough, as a matter of fact. So it's not, and I was lost my I got vertigo for about 2 days after doing a mushroom journey, and luckily I was in the right I was on a retreat, and I was in the right circumstances, under good care and all this stuff, but I mean, vertigo is like the world is spinning and you can't walk. And it is beyond description. And I don't know if, I'll never know if it was from the mushrooms or from flying to Jamaica or from swimming or whatever it was. I never had it before and I've not had it since. That's not true, I have had it since. But I'll never know what it came from. So there are things that can happen. And it's important to know that there are things that can happen. But I think in general, I think I feel quite secure in most psychedelic.
I mean, what you do with your book also, that you advise against certain things and what to do, what is best to do. I mean, do we need to own a scale? No, probably you should own this book first.
No, yes, but you can buy, everybody can buy a $17 mini scale. $17, so you can weigh what's in your, if it's a capsule, you can weigh what's in the capsule. So you will know if it's MDMA, like, okay, here's the dose. We want between 100 and 120 milligrams of that, and that'll be a good dose. And if you have much less, you're gonna have a different experience, and if you have much more, it may not be so pleasant. So I think there are ways to $17, I'll tell you where to get it. It's in the book, I told you where to get it. Anything, of course.
Is it based on weight? Like, how do you,
MDMA?
like, any of it? Like,
It's all different.
It's all different.
okay,
They're all
so,
different.
Like, basically, you're much taller than I am and you're a man.
Oh, it's not based on my weight. It's really based on what's happening in your brain chemistry. So what's the size of your brain? Who knows, right? So you have to find your appropriate dose, but it's not about your body weight versus my body weight in most instances.
So how do you know how much to take?
Well, you start low and you go slow. And hopefully you're with somebody who is a good guide or knows something.
Company is very
and
important.
can advise you. Or you read my book.
You start with the book. No, but truly, not just the company, but the shaman or the person who's guiding you. It doesn't have to be a shaman, you know, but like that is really important, I believe.
It is important.
And you know, if you decide to do an official K treatment against, you know, trauma, for example,
Well,
there are
you'll
clinics,
be very guided.
then you're really very guided, yes. And then after how long, how long are they, those sessions?
For what?
For example, the K treatment.
Ketamine?
The ketamine.
Ketamine's fast, it's an hour.
So it's an
You're
hour.
in and out.
After 2 hours, you are on
You're
your
walking
car.
home.
Yes.
Yeah, ketamine has very little after effect, which is interesting. You know, other ones take a lot longer to recover, but ketamine is quick.
Listen, a little detour from pleasure, but for me, it's sort of like in the same realm in a way, because you know, psychedelics is really an invitation into the unknown and an opportunity
It is.
to embrace and accept the tragic fate of being human. And I know this is not spiritual practice, but can psychedelics become a way for us to reach the divine, whatever that means for you and could mean for
You know,
us?
I don't know, but a lot of people say yes. And a lot of the research shows, this has been documented throughout the history of psychedelics, that people have a high proportion of mystical experiences. And I just want to read you guys how science defines a mystical experience, because it's quite interesting. And it's 6 components.
Wow, we weren't prepared on this question.
Well, I always have to write it down because I don't remember, sorry.
No,
But I think it's
I'm
super
glad you
interesting.
have it.
So it's very interesting, and they judge it on 6 components. That you have a sense of the sacred, that you have met the source of all being, that could be God or however you want to define it, that it has a noetic quality, that the experience is imbued with a meaning that is just true without question. deep joy, ecstasy, blessedness, tranquility, or awe. Ineffability, beyond words. And this is interesting, paradox. You can accept the coexistence of mutually exclusive states. So it's both and versus either or. And I find that is really, I think anybody who's taken a psychedelic understands that. And that's why capitalism is not a great container for psychedelics, I would say. And then it's a unitary consciousness that blurs the boundary between self and other and self and object, which is why you might fall in love with that rock. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think, whether you've had all of that or some of that, I think that's all a part of a divine, for me, a spiritual experience. I mean, that to me is a very powerful thing that just isn't happening every day of my life, Especially that blurring of boundary and the acceptance of paradox, right? Either, both and, not either or. And that's powerful, I think. And I think that's why people who are in charge don't like them. Because they're not very binary. They blur those, they erase those boundaries. And they scare the authorities.
Sure, I have a question. Do you think there's been enough creditable research?
Lately there has been, so, a lot,
Written research?
a lot. So, there has been a lot, there was a lot on LSD up until
Early on.
1967.
Way early.
1942 to 67. It was one of the most studied compounds ever. And that's how they knew a lot about it. It was all squashed, by the way. The war on drugs made it all go away. Real research, again, began in 1992 with DMT, and then really took off in 2000 with psilocybin. The man who started it was the same scientist who got caffeine listed as an addictive substance. Okay, so he was a heavyweight at Johns Hopkins. And I think a lot of the science is solid, and they do, a lot of the science is repeated. So the same studies are showing the same things over and over and over again. And we have about 20 years of that now. And that's a lot of science. They're not doing massive trials. And part of the problem is psychedelics are really hard to study. Because if I'm giving you, and this is a problem, and it's very sciencey and a little wonky, but in a clinical trial, there's the dose and the placebo. And in almost every clinical trial, if you get the psilocybin, you're tripping. And if you get the niacin, you're not. So it really, niacin just ain't psilocybin. So that's a problem on how they study this. So I think they're looking at new ways of studying psychedelics, and they're actually looking at ways of studying dosing, right? So they're giving everybody the psychedelic, but looking at dosing, which eliminates some of that clinical problem that they have. But yeah, I think there is I found a lot of
And the
science.
pharmaceutical variability?
Say that again?
Well, pharmaceutical variability.
What does that mean?
Well, the manufacture and production,
yeah.
quality control.
That's a problem. That can be that's a big, especially a problem with mushrooms, which is why they always use psilocybin pills. So mushrooms are different varieties grown in the ground that have different strengths, right? And it's hard to know. It's really hard to know. So yeah, that's a problem, which is why they can limit that. LSD is a form. Most of the things they can synthesize at this point. So mescaline is the synthesis of peyote, right? MDMA is a chemical, ketamine is a chemical, so they know how to make those things. And they make them, and those are consistently done in the trials. What confused me when I started doing the book, though, was sort of what I said before. Like, you read, oh, psilocybin's really good for depression. Oh, LSD works for depression. Oh, ketamine works for depression. And I was going crazy at first. I kept thinking I was misreading, misremembering. And at a certain point, you realize, wait a second, they all work on these illnesses. Illnesses that modern medicine just can't treat. Doesn't have, well, I shouldn't say that. Some SSRIs are effective for some people with depression, but a lot of people complain about them, that they blunt both the bottom and the top, right? So they take away joy, 20% on the top, 20% on the bottom, and that they take away like appetite, like desire for food and things like that, and that they sort of make life gray, and that you're stuck on them for the rest of your life. So I don't want to diss them because I know a lot of people who've benefited from them, but it's a very different kind of medicine, like here, try one, try two, try three. Oh, you might be good for a year. Ah, that's a very different, and again, the medical system we have is not set up for that. And the pharmaceutical system really wants one pill a day for the rest of your life because that's a constant profit, right? So this is what I'm thinking a lot about now, right? Is like, who's going to control these substances? Who should it be?
That's,
Who should it be? I don't know. I mean, it's pharma.
When private investment gets involved, then you know it's really something.
That's going to be capitalism then, and they're going to go for profit, and that's what's happening a lot. And, you know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said the government, but I certainly don't now. You know, I actually have come to think that community has been really good over the years, I gotta say. I mean, yeah, there's been problems, of course, without regulation. But Oregon has an interesting model right now. They have a medical model, so if you need something for depression, say, you can go get it. But they also have community centers where you go and you pay a fee, you can journey, there's somebody there guiding you. I don't know, I think it costs like $500, so it's expensive, but it's comfortable, it's set up, it's structured. They don't add therapy into it, which is part of a problem maybe, but that's a community system. And, you know, I think a lot of other, you know, I'm a member of sort of an ayahuasca community. I'll hear from the shaman when he's coming to New York, blah, 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 blah. I trust him. I know his medicine is good and solid. And I think a lot of people have community like this now, and it's not so bad. And it's quite nice and it's easy and it's an interesting problem.
I think the public perception is it's still something that's underground,
Yes.
and the public perception is that it's not researched, and you never know what you're going to get, and perhaps you're confronting danger because you really are.
No, I'm not.
I think that is public.
It is
Does anybody disagree with that? That is still the wide public impression of psychedelics? I think it's still the case.
Yes,
You know,
sadly so.
that was another reason I wanted to write this thing, is just to sort of, if anybody reads it, I don't know, but you know, here it is. Like, look at what we know. Look at what we know.
The CDC needs to read it.
CDC, well, who knows, what is the CDC anymore? I mean, here we are, you know, in the world of this.
The CDC personnel that defected to Europe, those are the ones that.
Possibly, maybe, yeah. There's still so much, apprehension and misapprehension about psychedelics. And listen, the war on drugs, very effective.
Yes, that narrative.
Let's face it. I mean, we've all had to deal with that stuff, right, over the years, and it's powerful. But if you compare, I mean, I don't want to do this because I like alcohol too, but if you compare alcohol and psychedelics, the harm from alcohol, it's a no-brainer, no-brainer, okay?
You can walk one block and find 5 places to get out.
Yeah.
Of course.
But you can't do the same thing with.
And with weed too, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's, you know, the way capitalism has dealt with cannabis, I'm very disappointed by. I find it sort of discouraging
Insane.
in a way, you know, that people are producing plants that have 30, 40, 50% THC, and that is such a distortion of this plant that grows in the ground that, you know, is pretty mild in general, but it's now like a whole other thing. And I don't know how to control it. I don't know how to control it, but I do worry about who's going to control these very powerful substances, and maybe decriminalization. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, because, you know, cannabis could easily have been co-opted by the tobacco companies as tobacco became less used in this country. It could have been easily done. I would have taken some lobbyists paying top people in the country, you know.
I think they were prohibited from owning cannabis businesses by
They could have
law.
bought the land, though. They could have owned the land that it's grown on.
They could
But
have.
they didn't. And that's the thing, in a way, I think that's a little bit heartening for the people who are, for instance, if you want to grow mushrooms, like you said, you can grow it under your bed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how can you control a spore or a seed, the sun, water, and land?
Hard.
They couldn't buy enough of the land
Hard.
to control all this weed.
So there was a company called MindMed that about 6 years ago tried to patent the room, the colors of the room, the music, and the eye shades you used in a psilocybin journey. Swear to God. They tried to patent it, okay? Obviously, it failed. But that's how, they're really, like, some companies are really trying to go there. And they're really now trying to synthesize LSD without the trip, because it's very inconvenient. It's a very long, expensive process, right? To go through a 8-hour, 10-hour journey. And who knows if they're gonna succeed or not, and who knows how it's gonna, I tend to doubt it's gonna work from my perspective, but who knows, I don't know. So there's a lot happening right now, trying to figure out methods of control. And we don't know. Are you Jim or James?
James.
Hi, James.
I was appreciating the title of the event for this queer space, which was healing, pleasure, and play. And it points to me to the false comparison between alcohol and psychedelics.
How so?
Alcohol generally is a depressant, and it's numbing certain sensations.
Disinhibiting, right?
Yeah, but it is not anything anyone is using as a healing modality for trauma, for any kind of.
Used to use it as an anesthesia.
So I think we really should honor the fact that these medicines and molecules have this duality, right?
They do.
There's the play piece to it. I recently started a meeting here at the center. I've been coming here for 14 years in recovery.
Uh-huh. Thanks for
There's
sharing.
Their real dogma about no mind-altering substances. But I started an in-person meeting of this national organization called Psychedelics in Recovery.
Oh, wow.
Which is mostly people with long-term recovery who are, like me, saying, this is great, I'm clean, I'm sober, but there's still something, feels blocked, stuck. I got a deeper level of spiritual wellness, healing something, and only the power and the ego-busting, transformational power of psychedelics has taken me to another place.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Psychedelics in Recovery every Thursday night at 5 o'clock.
How many people come to your group, may I ask?
Well, it's new, so we're getting going, so get the word out. We have hundreds and hundreds of people who come to meetings, we have 20 meetings a week online.
Let's talk about it. I do a Substack on the topic, and I think that's interesting for people who, I have no truck with recovery. It's helped so many people I know, and I'm so glad it exists. But I hear you. Do you feel stultified by it, or you just feel?
Well, I think, again, the false comparison is alcohol, drinking, gambling. Those are not the problems. Those are symptoms of an underlying discontent, trauma, woundedness, something. And so what psychedelics lets us do is break through the ego and get to the root cause of the discontent.
Have you found that it does indeed?
Unbelievably so.
Amazing.
Transform my life.
Amazing. So there's one of the centers that I talked about, the Ibogaine Center in Mexico, located in Cancun, Beyond, they treat not only addiction, but they treat gambling addiction, they treat cell phone use disorder. No,
That's really something.
think about this. No, it's considered now a disease, okay? And it's a disease that isn't a physical disease necessarily,
No, it's a mental.
but it's a disease of the mind, of the spirit, of the being. You define it.
The other thing I want to point out, the amazing documentary filmmaker, Lucy Walker, she's made a documentary called Of Night and Light.
Of Night and Light.
And it's about Ibogaine. It's coming out next year. It's been at film festivals. And she follows veterans. And this is the weird thing that Rick Perry, the former Texas
Rick Perry.
governor, and
Texas.
what's his name? There's a guy who runs this thing called Ibogaine for Americans or something like that. And it's getting legalized.
Yeah, in
red
Texas.
states
In Texas.
because
$50 million,
it's-
yeah.
It's dialing back on Medicare costs, so people think it's fiscally responsible, and it's focusing on PTSD for
Vets, and for vets, yeah.
So we're actually gonna see a lot more innovation and risk-taking about psychedelic use in red states.
I know, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is kind of fascinating.
Kentucky was looking at it, Texas just passed it, another red state is looking at it. And I just keep thinking, you know, where were the Democrats on all this stuff? Where were we? Where were they? They were asleep at the fucking wheel.
What are you hearing about federal?
Still are.
policy?
Still are,
Still
exactly.
are, still are, yeah, sorry. What were you saying?
What are you hearing about federal policy?
Well, it's so hard to know under RFK what is federal policy. It's so scattershot, we just don't know. But Casey Means, the woman he appointed as the head of HHS, has also written a book that's very pro-psychedelic. And she's a doctor. She's very into, I mean, her book is sort of like, I can't remember the name of it. It's about energy and well-being, and a lot of doctors are super skeptical because, you know, they don't follow that model. But I also think, you know, one of my problems with everything I've read about psychedelics is it always says, you know, before you take an ayahuasca journey, talk to your doctor. And it's like, well, no, your doctor is gonna know less than you do probably, right? The only doctor I know who knows about psychedelics is the woman who wrote the intro to my book and the guy I went to high school with, who's now a psychiatrist who was tripping when we were 16 together, okay? Most doctors don't know, I mean, it's not their fault, it's not in the medical school curriculum. They can't help it, and they're pretty busy in general, so they're probably not exploring psychedelics, not most of them anyway. So we have a problem there, and there's this huge disconnect between the medical community and the people making policy, and oh man, I wish I could be some sort of a bridge to help communicate, but I'm not in that world, and probably, you know, I'm just a journalist, so they're probably not so interested in me. But sorry?
It's not unlike alcohol. Alcohol is regulated by individual states.
That's right.
We have 50 different sets of rules.
That's right.
For alcohol throughout this country.
We do,
So
it's true.
It's
So,
highly unregulated.
my dream is that this is what happens in terms of control, okay? Is that for the next 10 years, states will adopt whatever they want to adopt. And that somebody is monitoring and recording and measuring outcomes in a really programmatic way that is accessible and transparent. And that at the end of whatever, 5, 10, 7 years, we look at it and we say, okay, that model really worked. This model, not so much. This model let people who didn't have a lot of economic means get access. This model did not. This model gave indigenous people some money back for exploiting and taking their substances, right? This model did not. Let's measure it on lots of different scales. That's me, but I'm a.
Yeah, no, you need a tremendous amount of research money
Yeah.
to fund that,
Yeah.
to do that.
I know,
And
but
that
we
would
have
be great.
money.
If that could be done, it would be fantastic.
You know, we
It
could
would
build
be-
one less warship. I mean, honestly, you know, to me, it's just like, this is so not a problem, but I don't run things. Hi, Mark.
Yes, I mean, let's get to I wanna see if there's a few more questions, but I really wanna ask one, since we are at the LGBT center here.
Yeah.
Have you ever, during your research, met any member of a queer community? I'm thinking about someone young who's struggling with self-acceptance or acceptance in his, immediate circuit, or trans young people who are trying to find a way in the world and trying to understand, how to become who they are. Have you ever encountered any of these people during the research, and have you ever found a psychedelic experience that could be specific for this?
I haven't, but maybe other people here have. I have not, and I think it's interesting, and I think I just wonder, like, our sexuality, our gender concepts, would they be helped by psychedelics? I don't have an answer to that, because it was never an issue. I mean, for me, no, it never really addressed any of that stuff with me, and actually, I haven't really asked the question. How about anybody here? Anybody have an answer to that one?
I would say it transcends gender and gender identity. It's more about, like, have I found self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, self-love? Whatever my background is, whatever my orientation is, if I can get to that place, That's power of.
That's the power. Yeah.
Totally, totally. But since we were talking about dreams and fantasies for the future, it would be amazing to have a center that, welcome young queer people who are struggling with,
There are
There are a
affinity.
lot of groups that tailor to queer.
To queer.
people and the specific pains, trauma, and struggles that have become cellular in our bodies.
Yeah.
You get at some of that.
There are some of that. I know those affinity groups, and people of different races have the same, and that's all very interesting, and I'm glad they exist. There's one group based in New York called Queering Psychedelics.
really.
I don't understand what they're doing. I read their stuff. I read their stuff, and I just don't know what they're talking
Okay.
about. But do you know them, Greg? Do you know Queering Psychedelics? Alex Belson? I don't really know what to do, but I think it is like an affinity group where queer people can come and gather and use psychedelics
And
for,
maybe do
for a
journeys
shared
together.
experience. Yeah, some shared experience. But I've always found it transcends my sexuality and my gender and all that jazz.
Any other questions?
Talk. What questions or thoughts do you have?
The Silibin,
What's your name?
I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. The Silibin, is that the same thing as salvia?
Are you talking about psilocybin?
Yes.
It's not the same thing. No, they're different plants.
Okay.
Have you used salvia?
I accidentally did once.
I heard it was unpleasant.
It was extremely unpleasant.
Yeah.
I was in the vortex, the tunnel, and I was frozen. I
Oh.
couldn't move.
Ugh.
And everything was spinning, and all my friends were not obeying the rules.
Why did you take it?
Someone handed me a pipe that I thought was
Here
marijuana.
we go. You just take what it is.
There's the problem. We just take what we get,
And what he said to me, there might be salvia in there, and I had no idea what it was. And I just,
And we don't even think to ask. I mean,
well, I wish I could, yeah. But I
Well, we
had to-
don't.
After 20 minutes, when I finally came out of it, because I couldn't talk. I
Of
couldn't
course,
use my
yeah.
verbal. It was just frozen. Yeah, it was scary.
I also think there's a macho thing about taking the highest dose or just taking something because somebody gives it to you, that we should be able to deal with it or understand it. And like, I love a low dose. I'm also of a certain age, and I think that's appropriate. I think as we age and our bodies change, our dosing ideas should change. You don't always need the maximum blow through the roof dose of anything to enjoy yourself. And sometimes it's actually really unpleasant. And I don't think we have that nuance yet. And I really believe it. I don't think psychedelic culture is nuanced enough to say, wait, I want that amount.
One other thing, there's that the drug use that helps with depression and with addiction.
Yeah.
There is a rehab center that's, I think, on 14th Street, in that area, in Union Square.
Okay.
That they do these.
Treatments.
In New York? So they're doing it illegally.
I don't know about that.
Is it with ketamine? Probably.
Might be.
Probably. Ketamine is legal. So ketamine is a legal drug. Yeah.
I go to this group here, it's called Smart Recovery. I don't know if that's the group for you. Okay, so I belong to Smart Recovery, and they have several people that have been going there that were, they were really severe alcoholics, like they had to be in there for a couple of months, and then they've gone for outpatient, and during their outpatient, they get these treatments, and they're talking about how much it's completely
Wow.
changed everything for them as far as addiction to, or
Wow.
even a desire to drink.
That's amazing and good for them. I mean, anything that stops a pernicious behavior is, I go for it. I say good. What other thoughts and comments and questions do you have? You who smile so much.
Who? Who's what's your name again?
My name's Matt.
I'm Matt.
No, it was really cool. I think the thing that I'll take away from this is just the idea of like kind of creating a community where we can talk about this as like kind of shared seekers and
Yeah.
building a network.
Yeah.
Broke that narrative also, to break that narrative that it's illicit and dangerous and, but we can get together and
I have one more.
make it.
Who's-
I'm sorry.
who's that?
I think it's
Matt.
important. Where do you see it in 10 years? Where do you see it in 15 years, 20 years?
It's
Oh,
a
God.
great question. I mean, it's such a good question. And I can't. I mean, I just don't, it's gonna depend on so many factors, isn't it? But I basically think that the cat's out of the bag. And even small groups like this, where people are talking, or where James is starting, I mean, it's happened. I've traveled not around the country, but to the East Coast and the West Coast talking about this. And I'm amazed at the amount of people in professional situations, my clients in my other business who are using psychedelics, who are not at all, I mean, I was a little nervous when I started writing this book because I work in corporate America sometimes. Most of them are really curious, and there's not a lot of judgment. It's really interesting. It's been with us. It's in our minds. It's got a place. So I think
Cool to hear, hey, I'm microdosing too. Oh, yeah.
microdosing,
Microdosing is,
one of my favorite topics.
Really?
I love
I'm
microdosing.
sorry, we only touched
Well,
on it at the end.
I've been microdosing for about 5 years, and I recommend it highly. I've even started a group of people to guide them through microdosing. And it's a really wonderful, very easy to accept, it's not, you're not feeling anything obvious. And somebody said this, and I wrote it in the book, it's like, you don't think anything's happening, it doesn't feel dramatic, and then one day you wake up and you say, oh wow, I had a really good day today. Or I didn't have a fight with that person today like I normally would have. Or gee, I feel pretty good. Or I slept really well last night. And that's a really interesting thing. And it's another thing that's really hard to study, because giving somebody a dose that you don't feel, very tricky, right? Or saying, oh, come to a hospital every 3 days to take a microdose of something you don't feel. Nobody's gonna do it. I mean, they just can't get people to comply to do that kind of study. But there was one study recently out of New Zealand, 19 people, who they gave microdoses of LSD to for a couple of months. They go home, take it every 3 days, follow the protocol. They did it. 60% of them had a lower occurrence of depression. 60%.
Wow.
That isn't happening with a lot of substances. Yeah.
Great results.
That's a great result. So it's quite interesting.
Oh, I know.
Ketamine, that's one of the ketamine treatments? Or-
That was LSD that I just said. But ketamine can be effective too. Hey, Nelson.
So this is the second time I've heard you talk about the book, and it's really interesting to hear sort of a different way. It felt like a little bit different than I heard before. One of the things that I
Try to be.
So one of the things you mentioned a lot is communities, which I think is really important. But one of the things that you talked about before that I found really powerful last time was this idea of like the way we feel connected, often when we're taking a psychedelic, like the way you feel connected to another person.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think it enables, so psychedelics definitely enable new neural connections, right? You connect things that were not normally connected in your life. And I think connection also extends to other humans and other beings and other plants, really. And I find that is one of the most powerful things, that idea that we are all connected. And it's really what opens my heart the most when I use psychedelics. You might call it spirit, or you might call it love, or whatever you want to call it. But that heart opening is almost true for every psychedelic, I would say. It's part of that mystical experience, that MEQ thing I described. And it really matters. And I think today it matters even more, where we're so atomized and we're so behind our screens, and people are so partisanly divided, that it really helps to be able to say, hey, we have some things in common. It's called humanity. And really, if we don't figure this shit out together, we're not going to be around for too much longer. And it's clear. I mean, I could talk about that for a long time, but I think you know what I mean. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes. I have a question a little bit about some of the access to some of these psychedelics.
Yes.
In terms of, we were just talking about the regulation and the control of
Yes.
it as it relates to capitalism. And I'm curious a little bit more about kind of how you understood through your research under the rubrics of capitalism, how psychedelics are accessed by communities that aren't white. And so I'm curious to know how, we're talking about humanity and we're talking about.
Not as much.
community, and how we can kind of bridge that gap, if that's a gap.
It's an interesting question, and there are affinity groups that are dealing with it, but definitely it's an issue. Right? Like,
Because you talked about a center that's $500.
Yeah.
To get access to, which is not accessible.
it's not accessible to a lot of people, and that's a problem. And people of lower income have a harder time with it, and I'm not, I mean, there are affinity groups that bring people of color and Latino and blah, blah, blah into the world of psychedelics. But, I've been to a lot of conferences, and the majority of people are not people of color. They are definitely white, as is true for academia, as is true for science. So we have there's a long way to go. It's a very good question, and I'm glad you raised it. But there's a really long way to go.
And something else I'm curious about is, especially like in Black and brown communities where substances were used as a form of control,
Yeah.
especially during slavery.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how we can maybe, or we, but like you or academics or the kind of research in this can maybe enable some movement toward opening up, exploring these psychedelics as a way of healing trauma and all of this, given that history.
It's a big issue, because when I was writing about cannabis, I learned that a lot of parents don't want their kids to use cannabis because it's associated with crime, right? And that's just a sociological fact that we're not going to change that generation of people, right? So the word has to somehow reach other communities, and right now I don't think we're doing a great job at that. But thanks for raising it. It's your job. Okay, get out there. Get out there. But I think it's through groups like James is also that's doing like a different kind of recovery program. That's a pretty ethnically mixed, gender mixed group, people in recovery, right? Yeah. So it'll get there, but it is early days. It is early days. Other questions?
I have a question.
Hi, Hen.
So in the 70s, there was a drug that was popular called MDA.
MDA, yeah.
So does that have any relationship to MDMA?
It does.
MDMA.
It was the precursor to MDMA, and it's shorter acting, excuse me. A little trippier and not as empathy arising. It's a different chemical formula, but yes, that was the first. They banned MDMA first in 1967. MDMA was the response to MDMA. I'm sorry, it was the response to the banning of MDA, yeah. You can still get it.
I didn't have a good experience
No?
with
No?
that. No.
What was it, the company, the location?
Well, I remember we were at a gathering, it was at a party, and people, I can't remember if we smoked, I think we smoked it,
No, you
no?
didn't. No.
It was in.
It was a pill.
No, then this was something. This was something
What did
that
you say?
I think we smoked it. Then I don't know what that.
Maybe that's why you didn't like it.
I remember
See, again,
walking
take
down
what
the
is given to
street,
you.
down the stairs, and I felt like my feet were, I felt like I was an elephant, like my feet.
Sounds like K to me.
It sounds like something else, yeah.
But do you
I
smoke?
was like, no, this, and it was just feet.
You don't smoke MDA or MDMA, that's all I can tell you.
Maybe it was a pill, I don't remember, it was so long ago, but the experience was, I felt like I had shrunk and I was just feet.
Well, you're back now. Listen, we're gonna end. I wanna thank you for coming and paying attention. I also wanna say, if you do read my book and buy it, will you please leave me a review on Amazon?
Oh.
I have to say it, I have to
Just
say
don't
it.
buy it there.
Buy it here.
No, buy it here.
Review it there.
If you buy it here, you will have a special,
I
you're gonna
decide.
write something on his birthday, which is very, very special. I really wanna thank you all for coming. Thank you all of you who shared their stories today here, it's very important. We know very well that the way to break judgment and stigmas is to stay informed. So thank you, Joe,
Thank you,
also
Marco.
for gifting us with this book.
Thank you guys
Look
also.
at the beautiful cover. It's amazing. Inside it's black and white like every normal book, but it's really.
No, it has one other feature, show them. They did a very nice design, I say.
I was going to. No, it's really, the illustrations are amazing. The way it's written, I want to say also, don't read it in one side. It's not a book, like, it's not narrative. Like, it's like a recipe book. You can read chapters.
It's a cookbook.
And buy a skin, or buy this book. Truly, I think this is the way for the future, the uncertain future.
Happy birthday, Joe!
Happy birthday, Joe! Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, thank you, online audience. So Joe will be up here signing copies of the book. They're available by the register.
Bye.